We watched this. Power of the Genetic Opera.
Yep. Because someone asked us to. Oh, I'm going the wrong direction. Out of the frame.
I'm gonna pull away.
Now it's even worse.
Ah.
There we go. What are you doing?
I don't know, I'm being sucked away by some irresistible force. We have many irresistible forces here who are good at sucking.
Anyway. We watched this because people... And it's... I feel like it's kind of cheating as a backseat critique because we've both seen it like multiple times before, so...
Yeah, we'll go into it a while. Ages ago, when I was, isolating with my dad, and we were doing some vlogs, we were supposed to do this just because I thought it'd be fun to make him watch it, because, it's very not his thing. But he's
a doctor, though. Well, a retired doctor.
He made me turn it off after about half an hour, so you're finally getting your backseat critique of Repo. I mean, we could have had me and him talking about the first third of it, and being all like, well, I didn't like it. Lots of swearing and violence. Bah.
Yeah.
Bah.
Your dad does not make that noise.
I know. I'm doing an impersonation of Stephen Fry as Lord Melchett.
I see. But, I mean, I knew a lot of facts about this movie. Just, just from being on the internet, I think. And I looked a few more up on IMDb, and I was like, huh. Apparently, Paris Hilton was like, I want to be in this. I want this role. And the director's like, no, we don't, no, you're not, no, this is not for you. And she's like, no, but the character is a shallow, image-obsessed, celebrity star. It doesn't have any talent. Like me. And he was like, okay. So, they had her in for, an audition, and he's like, okay, yeah, you get the part of it.
And, and they finally reveal that she's much smarter than everyone thinks at the end. And
yeah, and apparently...
Just like the real Paris Hilton.
Yeah, apparently she's, was, an absolute, sweetie to work with and everything, and was just totally awesome. And I was reading on IMDb while we were watching it that they fell short by, they went over budget by, $50,000. They're like, oh, we're gonna have to shut down production. She's like, no, I'll just make a paid, appearance at a nightclub for that amount. It's grand. Okay. So I will definitely stand for Paris Hilton.
The usefulness of having an ultra celebrity in your cast.
I'll just do that.
On the cast, this is one of the most beautifully eclectic casts of anything. I love it. I mean, Alexa Vega, she was in the Spy Kids movies, I believe.
Yeah, and you know what? It's really weird. She looks like a younger version of a girl that I worked with at my second Barnes & Noble.
I'm sure Alexa Vega will be delighted to hear this. And then, of course, you got Anthony Stewart Head, obviously Giles.
He's great, obviously.
You got Paul Sorvino, who's
really famous.
Full-on dramatic actor with some opera chops. Then you got his three kids, Paris Hilton. You got Ogre from the industrial band Skinny Puppy. I don't think he's ever acted anything before or since, possibly. He did, and he's not even like that in real life. He's just like, hey, do you want to be in this movie?
Yeah, sure.
And you'll have to put on a silly falsetto. You'll have to put on a silly falsetto and a ridiculous accent. Yeah, I'll do it. And then you got Bill Moseley, who is a B-list horror icon. He's no Robert Englund or, Kane Hodder, but he's...
You're good, but you're not that.
Well, yeah, he doesn't. He's
always gonna feel seen to watch this and feel
bad. He
doesn't
doesn't have an iconic franchise character that he plays. He turns up in a lot of horror.
Most people don't have an icon.
Yeah, most people aren't horror icons. He's become a horror icon by appearing in so many horror movies over the years. And he's starting off as Chop Top in Texas Chainsaw 2, and then just sort of going in for a couple of things. So it's really always exciting to see Bill Moseley. He is a delight. And then, of course, you've got Sarah Brightman, who is an A-list in the entire history of stage musicals.
She was like, oh yeah, and Sarah Brightman, who is? I'm like, I know who Sarah Brightman is.
I remember that, 15 or 20 years ago, there was a heavy metal magazine who, for their April Fool's Day thing, they did an article claiming that Sarah Brightman was joining Nightwish and they were going to be renamed to Brightwish.
Although her singing in Nightwish would be pretty good.
And it's like, dudes, you do not joke about news that's better than shit that happens in real life. That's not fair.
It always happens, someplace, when you're, every year, it's oh, we'll have this really, low-key, but, you have to figure it out, kind of, April Fool's, and everyone's like, oh, this is fantastic, and they're like, no, it's not.
Yeah, the best example of that was Bryan Singer tweeting out one April 1st that he'd cast Lady Gaga as Dazzler in an X-Men movie that was coming up, and I'm like, Bryan Singer, that is better casting than you've managed in any of your films, X-Men or not.
You're gonna hurt his feelings too.
I don't give a fuck. It's Bryan Singer. Fuck him.
What does he do that's bad?
Look up his Wikipedia article.
I never remember people's names and things. Is it a Me Too kind of thing? Okay, I'm going to assume that's yes. I never know if people are canceled or not, and I'm so bad with, like, actors' names and faces and things and stuff that I was adding a video to my playlist on YouTube, and I was like, who's Jon Favreau? The name sounds familiar. And
I was like, is this what is this in connection to, film or politics?
Well, it was Binging with Babish, so...
Yeah, so that's film Jon Favreau.
And you were like, oh, he's good. I was like, all right.
He directed Iron Man and Iron Man 2 and played Happy Hogan and directed the Lion King live action, CGI abomination
apparently him
version.
and Babish get together and make macaroons.
And Zathura.
I'm sorry, macarons.
And the other Jon Favreau has something to do with politics. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, this is definitely like the famous one, so I guess go watch Binging with Babish.
Anyway, Repo.
It's good. It's really good.
This is one of those films that if you like it, it's good. If you don't like it, it's good. A lot of films, you can tell it's good whether you like it or not. This one, it's like it's been designed in such a way that there's bits of it where it is very murkily unclear about what's going on and why, which you work out later on due to context.
And also like the little expositions.
Yeah, and there's little things that don't make much sense on the surface, which if you don't like Repo, are just going to make you hate it more. But if you do like it, it gives you a little mystery to work out.
But I maintain, though, that this is a movie musical, so you have to compare it to other movie musicals, not to other movies.
It's an opera.
Yes, but, okay. It has more in common with, Chicago than it does with Citizen Kane.
This is true. The opera has its own rules from musicals. Because
yeah, I know, but, as a genre of film...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's not many film operas. There's rock operas, and there's not...
Well, there's film versions of operas.
Yeah, there's not many, but even there's not many. There was The Magic Flute that Kenneth Branagh directed. Stephen Fry wrote the script for that.
I'm still angry about that opera. No, see, because... Alright, let me tell you. So, I think I've mentioned on Backseat Critiques previously how the Philadelphia Opera Company had a program when I was a kid that they would offer super, super, super cheap seats up on the top balcony. So the cheap seats, they would offer them at an incredible discount to local schools in the Philadelphia metro area. And so basically what you did was you kind of bought into the season, and I think it was it was something maybe it was $100 per family. But it doesn't matter how many kids, you could take all the kids, and it was 4 operas per season. Mm-hmm. So if you're into opera, and you want to, keep your kid, you want to get your kids into opera, it was great. And actually, I was tweeting about this several months ago. I don't even remember who I was tweeting with, but they must have been name searching because the Philadelphia Opera Company's Twitter replied, "Oh, glad you really enjoyed that. We still do this program." And I was like, "That's great." But so anyway, I've seen The Magic Flute 2 times, and this was the second time I saw it, and I had a really bad cold or a mild flu, but we didn't want to this was back in the day before we cared about breathing on other people. And so, and my mom was ill as well. So my dad was like, well, we still have to get our money's worth. So I had to go to the opera with my dad anyway. And I was hopped up on cold medication. And they tried this new thing. And here's the thing. They advertised, there's going to be a 50-foot, that's because the magic serpent that gets killed is going to be a 50-foot magic serpent, right? And we're like, it's going to be incredible. But what they did was that they did this new kind of avant-garde set thing where there wasn't any... There were very minimalist set pieces, but then the whole back of it was a projection screen. But they projected upholstery type patterns, classic upholstery, Victorian upholstery type patterns onto it. Mm-hmm. And then it would gradually shift, if you would do a fade between one to the other, but it would take several minutes. So it was like watching an acid trip. Behind the opera, I was a 12-year-old fucked up on NyQuil.
You can't tell what they're saying because it's all...
Well,
it's in German, isn't it?
No, but the Philadelphia Opera Company has a projection above the stage.
Oh, you have to read as well.
Yeah, with the English lyrics, which is really handy for operas that aren't in English. But
most of the legit operas.
Yeah, And then to add insult to injury, well, no, because sometimes people will translate them, but they're not very well received.
Yeah.
That this big 50-foot serpent, it was kind of like, like the dragons that you see in, like, the Chinese New Year parades. It was like that, but you only saw, like, this much, like, the head of it. And I was like, maybe it's 50 foot, the rest of it's backstage. I'm still pissed. Mozart can get fucked. That's the worst opera ever. And no one dies. A decent opera should have a decent body count. You can quote me on that.
Well, in the kind of Brana version, the guy leaps into a giant set of lips.
Does someone leap into a giant mustache?
Don't think so.
Well, there you go.
Anyway.
It's hard because we really can't criticize this movie because we like it.
Opera as a genre doesn't tend to go on film very often.
Yes.
I can come up with a couple of reasons for this, because A, it's incredibly niche musically. B, because of the shit that happens in operas in their story, if you're filming it, you gotta dramatize all that, and that's expensive because operas are big. I mean, the word operatic means big and over the top. So again, it's hard to put on film because you would need a big budget for it, and not that many people give a fuck about opera. This is
Lindsay made a point about that. And her video about the aughts adaptation of Phantom of the Opera, that like it's really hard to like there's songs that occur in the musical. I can't remember if it's dielectric or not, whatever that because she describes that, but that how that like they actually pull it off because the numbers that happen within the opera are clearly presented like having within the opera, but you're watching it from without the opera, but you're not the audience.
Okay, yeah, I think it makes sense. Yeah.
Go watch her video about it because she has like really smart points to make, and I'm synopsizing it.
So I'm thinking that the reason that the big version of opera in film is the rock opera, because it's coming from
air guitar. I'm not just like
because rock opera ones, because they're not based on these older operas, they can be exactly as large and over the top as they want, and they can be over the top in a different way, and they it's like it's designed to be a film. Very few of them start off as stage operas, like Repo did. But
what about Tommy? Or was that an album first?
Tommy, I think it might have been an album first, but yeah, very few rock operas don't start off as films or like albums. They don't usually start off as stage productions. That's usually for musicals. It's a very weird thing. And in case you're wondering, the difference between an opera and a musical, I believe, is that musical has dialogue and songs, while opera, basically every single line of dialogue is a song.
Yeah, but some musicals are sung through. That's what that's called.
Okay. Well, there must be some sort of a grey area between opera and them, which I'm not familiar with.
Western European language?
I don't know enough about this.
I've seen a lot of operas, but I don't really know about it. Like, I never took a class.
I want to watch, like, Einstein on the Beach sometime, because it's like 17 hours
of
people doing numbers over and over again.
I'm not watching that with you. It's like watching someone read Pi.
Just sing Pi. Many people.
Actually, on YTMND, there was one of the memes that was a band called Hard and Firm with a PH that sing Pi. 3.141572. That's all I remember of Pi.
It's basically Einstein on the Beach.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, the gimmick with Einstein, it was it's Philip Glass, who I usually love because it's repetitive and weird.
This time,
and it takes fucking long. But Einstein on the Beach, the music is based on turning equations into the numerical values of equations and formulas into music. And so that's responsible for everything in it.
I'm sure that's a really interesting thing, and I'm sure that there are mathematicians and also musicians that would just like really are just screaming at like I've muted you and are screaming stop, I can only get so erect. But you just describing that, like, it just makes my eyes want to go in different directions. I'm just like, oh.
Yeah, if you look up Einstein on the Beach, you'll find like 20-minute videos. Just choose random parts of it, and you hear people just repeating numbers in song over and over again. It's like, well, now you basically heard the important stuff from Einstein on the Beach.
Now you've done it. Dropped it. But yeah, no, so, if you don't know anything about it, we've just gone on, like, assuming the whole entire internet knows about Repo. So basically, the guy, Terrence, how do you pronounce his name? His name is like ZD something or other.
Zdeněk?
Yeah.
Zdeněk?
But anyway, so he plays, apparently he wrote all the He did all the art for it, and he wrote all the music, and I think he did most of the script. So he
wrote the script with another dude who I don't know if he was an actor in it, but
he's
I
a goth musician, and he's also a graphic novelist, and his day job at the time was as a storyboard artist, and so he and his friends used to, apparently this started out as like a live performance that like slowly evolved into a narrative, and so he was friends with your man from...
Darren Lynn Bousman?
Yeah. And
who directed Saw 2, 3, and 4, not Saw 1. Saw 1 went off and did Aquaman.
So basically, like, they did, him and his friend, they did like a 10-minute short to try to pitch this, you know, and options like, oh, is anyone interested? And, you know, and then so your man comes back flush with them Saw bucks and says, hey, I've got a shit ton of money and cred now. Let's make the movie version of that show you used to do. And he was like, well, damn, friend, let's do this thing.
And, you know, he ended up with Saw, quite interestingly, you know, because the first Saw came out like one Halloween, and then Saw 2 was out Halloween next, and now Saw 2, 1 was a sleeper hit. No one expected it to be as big as it was. I mean, after...
Was that not... Which came out first, Saw or Hostel?
Saw.
Okay. Was that the start of the torture porn genre?
Not the genre. It's a very nebulous term. It's probably not very useful. But that it was the ones that it was the first of those ones that was referred to as torture.
Yeah, but back in the aughts though.
Or
the teens.
After Saw 2, they came out every year like clockwork for like almost a decade. But because they knew it was a big success, they would have the next one in production while the other one was in production. It was like a constant thing. But Saw 2 was in production so quickly.
There is always a Saw in the North.
So Saw 2 was in production so quickly, though, hilariously, because its script, it was not a Saw movie. It was completely unrelated, and you know Darren Lynn Bousman or whoever it was who wrote, I think he wrote it, was shipping this around, and people were like, this is a lot like Saw. Saw makes a lot of money. I want you to change some characters' names and make this a Saw movie.
Guess what,
friend? Like, what's Saw? Here's Saw, watch it, make this a sequel. Okay, 10 minutes later, they're in production.
There you go.
It's something like that. It was a pretty fun story.
But yeah, so the basis of this film is it's set in the future. Like, it's actually set in 2056.
Yeah.
And an epidemic has swept the world, which causes organ failure. An epidemic of organ failures, and millions die. Hashtag long COVID. Stop doing that. Some people are really sick and suffering. It's not a joke. Long COVID is not a joke. But anyway, so basically this company, GeneCo, steps up, and this is like the height of American, you know, medical capitalism. Like, oh, we have all these really great options for you, all these, like, you know, cybernetics and all these artificial organs and stuff. So, if you can't afford it, we can always finance it. And, you know, so basically, you finance your organs, and it kind of like, but stop doing that. It kind of becomes like, stop doing that too. It kind of becomes like a, kind of like almost like a trend, because, you know, Americans will get into shit and we'll take it too far. So now, it's not just people who desperately need these parts to keep living. Now it becomes a fashion thing, like, oh, go and get surgery. And, like, you know, GeneCo, like, it's like, yeah, it's the newest model, cornea.
They get what?
What?
They get what?
They go into it?
No, they get. Begins with S.
Serious?
No.
Statistics?
No. They get. Slicing. What happened? They get what?
I don't know what you want me to say.
Word.
I don't.
Surgery.
Tell me what you want. Oh, surgery, okay.
So they get what?
They get surgery.
Surgery.
Anyway.
Surgery.
So yeah, so if you fall behind on your payments, then rather than like take you to small claims court or like send you to collections, they have special doctors who come and take the organ back, but you're murdered at the same time. I mean, that's weird because, like, what if it's just, like, something small that you could live without? Like, it's like you have a bionic finger. They, like, have to murder you anyway?
Like, by Meg, her eyes, she could have, if she made a fuckload of money being the biggest ultra celebrity in this, she could have just had the eyes removed and then buy some, without having to pay GeneCo anything.
Yeah, but I think they murdered her because they just, the kid, everybody was really out to murder her, pretty much.
Yeah, it's one of those things that doesn't actually make much sense in context, but, it's Repo, so it does shit like that.
Well, it's from establishing shots and from, like, the exposition, like, storyboards, you get the idea that the city where they live is, I mean, it's surrounded, it's obviously an island, and it's, like, surrounded by, like, just massive, massive cemeteries, and, like, the people kind of lived in, like, the ruined skyscraper area, so it might be that basically they have, this city is big enough to be kind of like a city-state. So maybe it's like the
Possibly.
island of Manhattan or something like that.
And Manhattan.
Yeah, but here's the thing. So basically, they might have their own monetary system in that city. So it's not a matter of, oh, if I sell this, people will give me gold coins. Because you don't really see anyone exchanging currency at any point.
That's true.
So it might be like a total 100% like electronic credit system.
It's nebulous.
That GeneCo actually runs as well.
Possibly. We spent a little bit of time trying to work out how the Zydrate works, because you got the cheap black market Zydrate is taken from corpses. Clearly, you can just stick a needle into their brain and pull out the Zydrate.
Well, it's up their nose.
So, Zydrate, I think the idea in the film is that Zydrate is a natural byproduct of the brain, which they've colored blue for the visuals, because it's interesting looking. However, I was trying to work out a practical way this works, and I think that Zydrate, the top shelf proper stuff, basically, it's not a drug per se, not the way we think about it. It gets into your body and it dulls your senses, but it basically pools in your body in the same way that lead does, or calcium does, or radium does. But it means that you feel pleasure instead of pain when you're being cut. And then, so the guy is pulling the remnants of the Zydrate from the dead bodies who used it. But you had another...
I disagree, because first of all, that ignores everything about physiology.
It's Repo, the genetic opera.
I'm just saying. But when you see the gravedigger, and he takes a big old needle and he sticks it up a corpse. Now, the corpse has obviously been embalmed and is quite desiccated. So the only thing that I can think of would be that this corpse was embalmed, and that for some reason the brain was not removed, or the brain has remained fluid, like maybe the sac around, there's a membrane around the brain to protect it. For some reason that has remained unpermeated. I don't know, but that the embalming solution pooled in it, like the stuff that's still remaining is probably pretty concentrated at this point.
Yeah.
And the only place that in the body that is not desiccated or preserved would be in the brain. And so what he's withdrawing is not really Zydrate, it's basically like a combination of whatever anesthetics remained in the body at death, and that have been liberated from the tissue by the embalming process.
Definitely possible as well.
I mean, I'm not a mortician, so
if you feel like commenting and you have an idea of which of these two theories you think is better, let us know. Although it does raise a question why Amber Sweet prefers the street-level Zydrate over the more expensive, proper, legit stuff.
Well, duh. She has a crush on the gravedigger. He's got a butt chin.
Oh, yeah.
Ladies love the butt chin.
Oh, yeah. Straight people exist.
Well, she's not straight, because she's always got, like, hot, sexy, like, nurses always dancing all over her.
To be fair, that might just be... They might have just been friends of Paris Hilton, and they were wandering
Apparently,
around.
like, in the the Zydrate song scene, so all of the people coming out of the support group and Amber Sweet, their costumes are not costumes, they're just clothes that Paris Hilton had, and was like, here, wear these. Look like me. And everyone was like, alright. See, this is what happens when you can surf IMDb without worrying about missing anything, because you've seen the movie several times.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, so it's good. I mean, the soundtrack still holds up. It does have some of that really great, 90s goth feel to it.
Yeah, it's definitely the sort of thing that's been... The way it sounds, the way it looks, the tone, the visceral stuff that happens in it. You put all those things together with the fact that a lot of it's unclear. Put all these things together, it basically is trying to create a wall around itself that, it's deliberately niche. It's trying to make itself inaccessible to people who won't love it. So
I don't think that's the case. I don't think any film project starts out saying, this is going to be very niche, and if you already like it, you'll love it. If you don't, let's spend $8.5 million on it.
No, a lot of films do that. Basically, if you can create something which has which will have a very dedicated fan base, but most people won't like it, and you don't use a lot of money to make it, that's really good business. Because you can have a dedicated fan base. If your film wasn't expensive...
Yeah, but I feel like the quality of people that they got involved, they knew. I mean, otherwise you'd see, famous people in, evangelical films. Because those films are rubbish, and they know that only evangelical people give a shit. So they're just like, hey, look, it's a guy that I met queuing at the 7-Eleven. He's going to play Jesus. And everyone's like, alright, that's cool. How much does he want? $5. That's fair. Is he Christian? Oh, yeah.
Well, basically, it's one of the things you're doing when you're in film production. You got to know what your planned audience is, and this is and Repo it has an extreme example of knowing what its planned audience is and playing to the planned audience.
30-something goths.
It does not want mainstream approval, which is fine. It's a cult thing. It's a lot of films are designed to be sort of cult hits.
Also, it's a musical, so that's circumspect as well.
Yeah, it's like it's I don't want to use the word antagonistic to mainstream audiences, but
well, it's not Rubber.
It's not going after. It's not
Rubber the film.
It doesn't want mainstream approval, which I'm fine. Which I think is a good thing.
I guess. I mean,
in the same way, look at my review show. You know, I was given a lot of advice about how to make my stuff viewed by more people. You know, even down to like, have a backdrop of like comic books and something like that. You know, all these random things. You know. I ignored all the advice, and I do my thing, which is, in many ways, antagonistic to most YouTube viewers.
I guess.
And as a result, I have cultivated, mostly by accident, a small but dedicated fan base.
Who are watching right now. Every single person's like, on the
edge
of their seat.
Which I maintain is far better than a larger fan base of people who, you know, don't really give that much of a fuck. You know, the people who watch my stuff and continue watching, who get past like the terrible visuals, the fact that I deliberately make the shots in the movie reviews, usually unpleasant to look at. You know, the swearing, all the things I do. They get past that. You know that they love the thing. I'm doing my show. You
know what you're saying? You're reminding me of that Monty Python like animation. Where the old man's watching the TV and he's leaning real close, and then like every few seconds, a little arm comes out of the TV and like does something to him, like pulls his eyes out, and they're going, and it's like hitting him and trying to like slice off his eyes, and then you hear "Are you watching the television? No, you know it's bad for your eyes." That's what made me think of. You're like, I want people to watch my YouTube videos and feel pain and suffering, actually.
No, I don't want it. And, you know, I would love to have a bigger audience, but it is probably better to have a smaller one of people who legit love it, rather than a bigger audience who can take it or leave it.
Like theory videos. Everyone loves that. I watched that 2-hour H. Bomber Guy thing about Red, Blue, whatever, that anime, and I'd never even seen that show before. I just sat down and listened to like a feature film length of some English guy explaining something. I love that shit. People love that shit.
Well,
video essays.
Tell that to the audience numbers I get for Renegade Count. Anyway, I was trying to explain how I think the approach to this film, you know, went. And
I don't think it's I think they were trying their best.
I think they were as well, but they didn't want a mainstream audience. And, you know, so they didn't cut corners. They didn't, you know, sugarcoat things, make it more, you know, make it normal for the
bucks?
You know, for the normals.
What's it rated in the UK anyway?
And that's good.
18, yeah. Yeah, could you see a woman topless as well?
You know, I wish more films would basically not try to make themselves accessible for every group, because if you have everything, if stuff is accessible for all groups equally, basically you've got grey sludge that no one loves.
Yeah, but films are accessible. You can just go watch them though. I mean, unless you have like
accessible is though
to listen to it or
accessible as in. I'm not talking about like accessible as in like someone who has a disability.
No, but I mean like if there's no. I mean, most of the only barrier is money. You know, like if you don't have 10
not
bucks,
really. I mean, you've got
buy the DVD. I mean, I guess you could pirate it.
If you've got a film, say okay.
Like anybody could just get the DVD or like get it used and just watch it.
And a lot of people who watch this sight unseen would turn this off very quickly within at least half an hour. You know, whether it's because of the aesthetics or because of the musical choice or because even the musical at all or because of the gore or because of any number of things. And so if you make a film that no one will hate enough to want to turn off, you're not going to have an interesting film. You're going to have a film that's just beige.
I guess. Don't say that, though, because now, like, some art house person will do that. They'll just call it beige, and they'll be like, ugh. It'll be 20 hours long.
No one will watch a 20-hour film, so that he would ruin it by doing it for
No, but
that
he's
long.
being antagonistic and inaccessible.
Yeah, okay, if you're doing that's another form of...
You have to go to, like, the top of a mountain, and there's, like, only one copy, like a little DVD player, you have to watch it like that.
That is another way that certain filmmakers will make it so their film is not
Hide up
enjoyed
the
by
mountain?
the mainstream. No, making it really ridiculously long.
Well,
Like,
then that's...
you know, I've been reviewed several Peter Watkins films recently, and he did a 14-hour documentary called Razin. It's only been screened a handful of times in full. You know, it's on YouTube, but it's in, like, hour pieces. And... You know, most people would just turn that into a TV series, and he's like, no, it's a 14-hour film.
Some people are wrong in their decisions to make 14-hour films.
And so, you know, Watkins is just like, I don't want people who aren't interested in watching things that long. And that's fair enough. I want more autonomy for directors to make the films that they want to make, and if the audience likes it, great. But I don't want people to make us something for an imagined everyone audience, because they'll end up no one liking it.
So there you go, assholes. Making beige snacks to eat while you watch your beige movies.
Like a beige snack would
just
be
like Rubber. There's a movie Rubber that back in my reviewing times I reviewed with somebody. It was a co-thing. And they were like, oh, watch this and we'll do a review. And I was like, okay. And it was the worst movie ever. It was about a sentient murdering tire. But
see, that's a great concept.
Yes, it is a great concept.
The trailer was great.
And I thought, oh, this is hilarious. This will be great. No, but it was an indie film. And so basically there was a point where they actually both stood up on a soapbox and then, like, literally poisoned the film audience to death. And it was kind of like they were standing there screaming and shouting at the audience, it's a metaphor! Get it? Get it? It's a metaphor! Because regular cinema is terrible, and it's just killing you, and you're paying for the privilege, but we're indie, and we're special, and we'd never kill you, audience.
See, that's an example of a director making a film that they knew would annoy a lot of people who watched it.
I wanted to see a film about a murdering tire.
And that director,
I don't give a shit about what you think about.
That director did not want every audience.
Oh, my lawn!
And, you know, they got rid of you by doing that.
No, because I still watched the whole thing, because me and...
yeah, but you're still talking about it.
Right, but so, we're coming up onto a half an hour, so... I hope, patron, who wanted us to watch this, regardless of the fact that we both actually really liked it already, I hope you were amused and you were like, I feel so fulfilled.
Yeah.
It was so salient.
And, you know, if you haven't seen Repo, check it out. And if you like it, it'll give you a lot to talk about, a lot to think about. Not so much because it's an amazingly, like, the best piece of art ever, but because it's a little bit confusing. And it gives you a lot of, you know, you can have theories, but you can talk with each other about it, you know, come up with ideas, which is great.
Discuss in the comments what you think it's about.
Yes.
Is it a metaphor?
Well, I'm not
for
thinking
tires?
that so much. I'm thinking about how it's constructed. You know,
is it a metaphor for Sears Auto? Buy more tires.
Not what I was intending, but okay.
It's a metaphor. All right.
And it's certainly better than, you know, just think it.
Certainly better than some of the crap that you make me watch, like all the Christian movies. We watched one that didn't even have any Christianness in it. Like your woman was like the worst Christian ever, but then she's like, "Oh God, save me!" at the end.
Oh, pray!
And I'm like, I could have forgiven the badness of the writing if they spent more time proselytizing, because you assume that the movie sucks because they only care about the proselytizing part.
Prey is going to be the January movie review. It's a Christian slasher film.
I could write a better Christian film. No one even gets slashed.
Technically slasher
Someone
film.
just kind of like walks.
Slasher film, it's technically, it's a murderer stalking and killing people. It's a slasher film with a lot of the actual slashing removed.
Right.
It's a bit odd.
You better hit the thing, otherwise it's going to cut into two files, and you hate that.
Oh no! I can't find the thing! This bit's going on for too long.